Hey, you guys, it's Lavonne. Welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio. Thank you for joining me. Happy Friday. I apologize for the little delay in getting to you. As usual, my computer just decided to do an update. Yay! So I'm Skyping, calling into the show tonight from my phone, so I really apologize. I'm not going to be able to take calls until my computer restarts or downloads updates. So tonight I'm really excited to be live in the studio. Thank you guys for being here, of course. When I am able to take calls, I will instruct you to do so. I'm joined live tonight here with Paul and Sajda, who are a couple practicing what they hope to be the future of humanity in regards to love and partnership and acceptance. They use the term polyamorous, and we also want to touch on a few subjects tonight in regards to conscious living and becoming conscious by means of meditation, clean eating, and we may touch on psychedelics. I'm hoping by that time we're able to take calls. My computer's the ultimate troll, so I apologize, guys. I'll let you know when you're able to call in. So I want to ask you guys first, Like, how did you go from being a conventional married couple? Were you ever a conventional married couple?
No,
No.
no. When we first started dating, Paul knew that I wanted to have an open relationship because I'm bisexual. So for me, it's just easier being able to pursue females if I wanted
Okay. I have a question for you. I have a guy friend who I've known forever, and he recently met a girl who he's like, they fell hard for each other really quick, and he proposed to her, and they were going to get married, but she brought the same thing up to him, saying, "Hey, I've got this interest in girls, and I'd really like if we had this kind of open relationship," and brought another woman in, and it really freaked him out. Like, he broke it off, she moved out, and him and I were talking about it, and I was trying to understand, one, where she was coming from, two, where he's coming from, and then trying to be objective, because I think a lot of people feel trapped by a partner once they get into a relationship, because it's like almost against our nature.
Don't want to.
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, like, there's so many attractive people.
Mm-hmm.
to. I think there are polyamorous people, like how there are monogamous people and there are polyamorous people, like how there are straight people and there are gay people. I think it's just a preference. People who are monogamous aren't doing anything wrong. They just feel like they want to be dedicated to one person.
Exactly.
And they only have the attention and, like, want to put all of their energy into one person instead of spreading their energy amongst people. So there's nothing wrong with that. There just are people out there too who feel the need to
love more than
one.
And how does your family feel about your guys' lifestyle?
Oh, well, I was raised in a polyamorous home. My father was allowed to go out and pursue who he wanted, but so was my mother, but she chose not to. She was happy with my dad. One was enough for her, but he needed more than one, and that was okay with her. And that's what type of household I grew up in, so I always thought that was the norm.
You're not the first one of my friends to say that their father practiced, but their mother didn't. And I wonder, is it biological for a man when he literally creates millions of potential offspring? I don't know, I swear you guys have like a million brewing every minute.
Uh-huh.
And ladies, we literally create one a month. It's just I'm not speaking for every woman, I'm just speaking biologically. Like, if we're talking about strictly reproduction, women think about it differently. But I like the notion of not being suppressed by any ideal. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we shouldn't say, this is how it's supposed to be. We shouldn't put parameters on lives. Like you were saying, like, everybody has a different preference. And you guys are considered unconventional, but I don't think that's the right word. You're just you.
Mm-hmm.
So I ask you this, because my friend, who we'll call Patrick wants to have children one day, but he's worried, like, what if he gets this other girl pregnant, and how will the dynamics of the family work out? My kids have a lot of aunties and uncles. Like, I always have buddies around, and I'm a single mom, so it's really nice to have that type of, like, community unit,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm not the only one who's around to teach children things, because it's not good for children to have one perspective.
No.
And it's not good for children to feel like, I don't know, like, I'm only one woman with certain views. Like, I want to make sure my children are well rounded, And that brings me to my next topic, is that there are so many different types of intimacy in love and affection. And I think people get so caught up on making out, grabbing ass, and penetration. Like they don't realize all the other types. Like, do you guys know anything about tantric or sacred sex?
We haven't ventured into it.
But I'm dating someone who is. So.
I find it very fascinating. Like, I hope that you guys learn more. And I too don't know a tremendous amount. But what I do understand is that it's it's a like a sacred way of connecting
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that you like honor each other's energy and the connection you can bring together.
It's more worshiping the temple and less about penetration or actual sex. It's more being very close to your partner and
like soul, like deep soul
yeah,
gazing,
yeah.
in like cultivating what they call like a kundalini, which is like the life force moving through your chakras.
Mm.
So I like that. I like that notion of like having an energetic effect on the other person. And I feel like we do that all the time with conversation, with a certain way you can look at somebody. Like what I'm trying to say is that there's all kinds of different types of intimacy.
Well, I notice with myself personally, I haven't been looking at other potential partners as sexual partners. I've more just been looking at them as intellectual partners or someone I can just hold and I don't have to worry about sexually pleasing when I look at other men or females recently. That's where my mind is.
I can identify with that. I used to be like what you would call horn dog. You know, like I've always been in long-term monogamous relationships, but when I wasn't, there were always those people in between that was just like, you know, and not to say they weren't meaningless, it's just, it'd be nice if I didn't have to, I don't know, like, I feel like the parameters of what should be affected what could be, you know? Like when you meet someone, you think you have to have like this, like, oh, hi, how are you? Like that same generic code or conversation that we all have ingrained in us. It's kind of the same with relationships. That's boring. And I think a lot of people are changing. Like they want to attract people with like minds and like vibes, and people do want to come together in communities. And you guys want to talk about that a little bit? Like, what do you see in your future? Like, in regards
Talk about
to
polyhome. Really?
well, some people
Because in the past, I used to have a vision of a poly home where it was a whole bunch of people I was dating and Paul was dating, living in one house together, raising kids together, having our own farm or whatever, and just
Community.
depending off of each other. But now my mind just is slightly in a place of where I don't believe that's a possibility anymore because of how different everyone's energy is. Like, I don't think it's actually possible for that much energy to live in one place and constantly flow peacefully.
No, I feel you. Like I've lived in communal situations, not where we're all dating each other, but just coexisting. And I learned from that experience a great deal. And I've come to understand that, and I truly believe this, that all of us literally have male and female energy. Some individuals have more of the other, like their ratios are vary. Like I feel very strongly like I'm a man woman. Like I'm very like powerful presence woman, and I know I intimidate a lot of men, and I think it's because of my manliness. Like, and some men have a lot of female energy, you know? And I think if people perhaps adapted that mindset that they too are both, you know, maybe people would have an easier time getting along. It's like I've come to recognize feelings inside of me and like try and be objective and like, where's this coming from? And a lot of times, like, I'm picking up on other people's vibes. And I feel like we're not trained to understand that. We're literally like radios in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, it's hard to coexist with a lot of people. Do you guys know anything about nonviolent communication?
Yes.
What do you know about it?
And just simply not being defensive when you're talking and not trying to defend yourself and not trying to take the blame, but instead just being an ear and understanding and not trying to make it a fight. So if you are thinking blue and your partner's thinking red at the moment, you don't have to freak out and scream at them red. You can agree that they're both primary colors and move past it.
Yeah, um, it's something that I began studying just recently, like at the end of the year, and I think it can change the world. Like
Mm-hmm.
literally, I think nonviolent communication could change the world. Like I like to think objectively. Like I call this segment objective perspective. And I feel like if we look at our history objectively, all of the children that are alive right now come from a family that was somehow involved in a war.
Mm-hmm.
We all come from a place of
Mm-hmm.
war and fear and fight or flight.
Yeah.
Like that's how we were made. Like I'm a mother and I recognize in my two children that they have attributes of the person I was when I made them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything is inherently affected by energy. And we were made from generations upon generation of people who were bred in fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like people who are alive right now are at the cusp and brink of something magical and beautiful because we're going, wait a second, the planet's dying, people are suffering unnecessarily everywhere. There's enough of us to do things a lot better and a lot more sustainably. Um, and people everywhere are waking up to the notions that things have to change.
Yeah.
And I feel like we live in the most amazing time for humanity because a lot of things are changing. People are growing their own food and they're recognizing that ingesting mass amounts of chemicals really does have an effect on them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're recognizing that you are what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just getting their power back a little bit at a time. And I think people who choose to do what's in their heart, like you guys, regardless, you give no F's, you know, you give zero F's about what is right or wrong, quote unquote, and just being like true to yourself is beautiful. Like I want to commend you guys. Like, and there's a community of people in our city
Oh, yeah.
who's you guys were talking about a support group. And do they practice like non-violent communication and compassion?
Yeah.
They practice everything pretty much, and they open up the world of polyamorous and how to communicate being polyamorous to your family and explain yourself and the different definitions of polyamorous because for different people it means different things. Like with marriage, for different people,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same with polyamory.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. Like my first experience with polyamory happened, I want to say like 2 years ago. There was this documentary about it,
Mm-hmm.
like unconventional sex or something. And there was like this couple who each of them dated and they had a son together. And I was like so shocked by it, you know, because here I was trapped in this relationship, like feeling guilty about being attracted to people and like, you know what I mean? Like, what the hell? Like putting so much guilt on myself for it. But it was kind of refreshing to see people, quote unquote, healthy people. They seemed pretty healthy and
Mm-hmm.
logical and rational doing this unlandish thing. but the thing is that it's not unlandish. We've been conditioned to think, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you look back at the history of people, like, most of the aristocrats and, people of power, yeah, everybody had concubines, and
Well,
for even in the dynasties, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like,
that's also why I'm polyamorous. My grandfather was a chief and a king in West Africa, so he had 15 wives. So my mom grew up with a father who had 15 wives. Her mother was his only American wife, and he had 14 Ghanaian wives. And she would go back to Ghana with my dad and have multiple moms, who she called mom, who were her mother, and had older siblings and so on and so forth. And it
oh,
was just,
that's just what happened.
it's just what happened. He was chief, he was king. And then for me and my sister, we were known as princesses. So at the age of 10, there was like multiple letters in the mail that my mom got from men offering her money and goats and land to for our hand in marriage, and we were allowed to pick 10 because we were allowed to have 10 husbands each, and it's just
Sounds like
common
winning to me.
because you're a princess, and it's like uh, you get to have 10 husbands because if one can't produce a child or produce a boy, then you go to the other until you can produce a boy from the sperm you have collected, type of thing.
And do you know for like how long have people, where did you say?
Ghana.
Ghana? Is that just something that's been happening forever in that culture? Like,
I think so. I don't know. For my family, it was, but we were more of royalty. We're not common folk. I don't know.
common folks.
I don't know how to put it. My family is like in a hierarchy out there, I guess.
Well, I mean, I guess if you grew up, it goes back to what we're saying with conditioning. Like I was talking about how we're conditioned to be violent in our speech. And it's something I suffer with. It's just the patterns of how I was like taught to speak and react to things. It is inherently violent. And I feel like I have to recondition myself. And being exposed to new ideas is part of that conditioning. My computer must have a virus. It's losing its mind. I'm sorry, guys. I've been trying to connect via not cell phone, but we're having issues doing so. But yeah, maybe I have a virus, so I can't really do much on this thing. But I wanted to read a couple articles from the website tonight that we have in the archives that can relate to our conversation in regards to psychedelics. So I just have to find it here. But what do you guys can keep talking if you'd like and tell the people just like your first experience with it, anything that was just paradigm shifting for you. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people our age like are literally composed of something different, you know?
Our first experience was actually very hard for me because Paul suffered with jealousy, and then we suffered with communication issues with the person we were dating. So there was just a lot of lies, and it wasn't conducted well. But it was the first time we were pursuing other people, extra people, adding to our relationship, pursuing outside of our relationship. So it was just a lot of chaos. And it made me retreat away from being polyamorous for a while. I was like, I'll go back to being monogamous. Even though I know it's a joke. Because I still have attractions to other people. It's just, will I ever feel confident enough to pursue them again? Is where my mind's at. But I'm okay with supporting Paul's comfort with pursuing other people and him venturing outwards.
Jealousy is definitely like very strong emotion. And that's something that I think arises out of this idea of possession in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And Osho, who's a great spiritual teacher, says, if you love a flower, you don't pick it, you observe it. And that's so powerful for me because I used to be that girl. Like, I've been every type of girlfriend. The I don't care girlfriend, the what are you doing girlfriend, the you're cheating on me girlfriend, the you can't leave the house girlfriend. Like, I've been every type of girlfriend. And now I'm kind of like, I don't want to be anybody's girlfriend because number one, I'm not a girl. I don't like the word girlfriend or boyfriend. I think it's like for me, it's a term of endearment. Like, I call my friends girlfriend or boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a term for like lover or I'm intimate with you. Like, there's got to be a different term. I don't know. Like, I think soulmates aren't always people that you touch though. Like, something. Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
yeah,
tell our attractions to the people that we have
an energetic connection. That works.
or like a soul connection. Or an aura connection. Like the color of their aura in this connection.
That makes sense. But I feel like the words we use are really powerful. Boyfriend, girlfriend. So I encourage people just to ponder that. Um, because I think that that breeds a lot of possessiveness, which is not healthy. Like, I really learned that if you love someone, you want them to be their best, however, however that is for them. And sometimes that's allowing them to just have like an organic experience. Like, I don't want to be, I don't want to interfere with anyone's life uh, as much as I want to enhance it, you know? Like, I feel like I posted a status the other day on Facebook that kind of made a lot of waves because I've been thinking a lot in terms of organic matter that exists on the planet. Like, the oldest matter on the planet are mushrooms or, like fungus in a sense. And there was a really interesting article written by a guy named Derek Brose, who's an author for the Anti-Media. I wanted to read it to you guys, where he talked about the idea that um, mushrooms are actually trying to communicate with people. So I wanted to read that to you guys and see what you have to say. Let's see where it go. Let's see. Let's see. So this is from April this year. So psychedelic plants are trying to communicate with humans. Um, from April 10th to April 12th, activists, journalists, researchers, and whistleblowers gathered in Philadelphia for the Free Your Mind conference. One of the guest speakers was American anthropharmacologist, researcher, pharmacologist, lecturer, and author Dennis McKenna. He's the brother of Terence McKenna. Do you guys know anything about him? I super recommend that you listen to some of his recordings as they're awesome. So Terence McKenna was a philosopher, and both of them are like proponents of psychedelic perpetuation, like using them as a means of growth, like psilocybin, mushrooms, ayahuasca, and MDMA. So they covered the research of the Hefter Research Institute, um, and they expressed the belief that plants are literally communicating with humans via chemicals that connect to our neurotransmitters. And he believes that the plants are trying to wake mankind from their destructive slumber. So I ask you guys, do you think plants are conscious?
Oh, God, yeah.
And have they played a role in your ability to think in the way you do? And how so?
Well, I can admit that every time I have eaten mushrooms, I have heard the earth to like the grass. Like, it was weird. It was like every blade of grass was having a conversation. We were all just talking, and I could hear each and every conversation. Just like the normal thing is like, hey, it's like, but all you guys do is stay there next to each other all the time. But every day it's like, hey, how's your day going? What happened to you? What stepped on you? What sensations did you feel? Type of thing. And then even when I'm sober and I'm not on mushrooms, when me and Paul go hiking, the trees talk to us. They like make noises, and if we listen to them and we find the tree that's talking to us and we hug it or touch it, then we can like see its life or see what it saw. Just it's simply standing there and watching everything grow around it or get chopped down around it, or winter storms, or just where it came from or how it started, type of visions with plants and stuff like that. So I can't doubt that they're alive.
They've shown
They've shown it to me multiple times and have opened up my heart and connected to me. I don't know why they choose to connect to me, but they have. And I even remember with our ex-girlfriend, she was very much so of a closed-minded person because she believed more in science than just feelings and the natural.
Science supports that plants have consciousness.
But she more was in, I don't know. She was just
She was in micro.
She was very limited to the beliefs of things. And she didn't believe that trees could feel, or trees had memories, or trees had souls. We were hiking, and we made her hike barefoot because that's how we hike all the time, because you can connect to the earth easier that way. And she decided to touch a tree because she said it called her. And 2 seconds with her touching this tree, she started to cry. And we were just looking at her because she went on that we can't feel the tree and we weren't seeing the trees past and it's all in our head and it could be whatever drugs they're on type of energy towards us. But then with her, in her mind, she touched the tree and it made her cry. And we were like, what happened? And she was like, I saw this tree's life and it was sad because it lost a loved one. It got chopped down and we took it and made it into something. And this tree is still mourning its loved one, type of story. And we just look at her like, how do you believe us? And she still was like, no. Even though she saw it and felt it herself.
That's something called cognitive dissonance, which is I talk about a lot on the show. It's literally people have an inability to accept an idea that unroots them from their own life. Because people get so attached to the idea of that they made in their mind of what they are and what represents them, that if anything were to refute it, it would essentially rip away their identity, so therefore they can't accept it. You know? Like if people identify with the fact that, oh, I'm a football player and I'm a jock and I do this and I do that, and say that football just goes away and there's no more football ever, what is that person now? You know what I mean? It's like an identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to remind people of that, like, you can't put a label on yourself. Like, it's literally going to drive you crazy in some way. Like, if you try to adhere to something that somebody's expecting, because it's just not going to happen. And I had a point, but I don't remember where I was going with this. I need to close that door. Will you please close that door? Somebody left the door open in the studio. Apologize, guys. But what we were saying is that there's definitely something going on in regards to humans everywhere realizing that there's deeper meaning to being alive than just buying stuff. You know what I mean? Like we weren't just made to like consume shit and make shit and throw it in the ocean. Like yeah, like there's way more to life than that. There's gotta be like on a cellular level.
I feel like we were made to make things, but make things out of things that were natural so that there is no pollution. It's just like in the olden days with cave drawing. Like there were artists back then who did artwork. They just did it in a destructive manner.
And it's still existing today, which is quite amazing.
There's people who did sculptures who carved into rocks and just left them
Mm-hmm.
in the scenery of wherever.
Mm-hmm. What I wanted to bring up though is you mentioned how you felt like the grass was talking and singing to you. And science does suggest that everything does have a frequency, which is essentially like a particle of light, a vibration. Um, and there is a lot of there's a lot of evidence to support that. Like on a quantum level, everything is alive. Um, but I don't think people understand that.
Most people are closed-minded to all aspects of that.
So
I think it's easier for them to believe that some things are dead. So that...
Well, if you tell a vegetarian that his fruit that he's eating his face, he's gonna not eat that.
yes.
And then you're gonna get people who only sun games.
Yeah, and sun gazing is kind of healthy, but it hasn't been proven yet.
But other animals eat other animals.
Yeah.
And that's where I just would go down to it. Because you're not being non-primal by eating other species. It's just how we're eating other species
The mass
is
killings.
the horrible part.
Yeah.
It's us not hunting for it, us not catching it ourselves, us not giving praise that we had the ability to catch it. It just simply coming to us and us devouring it without the energy put forth to capture it. And then that's what makes eating so much meat unhealthy for you, because we're more just eating the depression and the sadness of the animal.
Like on an energetic level, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last 5 years, like there's been like a double of people in the United States who have become vegetarian because they realize like just the sustainability implications that it has on the planet, like the way we create meat. It's just, I think that you're right. Like it's made with ill intentions, and what does that do to your body and your cells? You know, if you're eating a tortured animal, my daughter's not happy right now. It's just, can you continue to talk for a second, Sasha? I'll be right back. Mom's got a mom.
Okay, so we're talking about animals and food. Personally, for me, I still eat meat and I still eat vegetables. Granted, I still buy it from the supermarket, but I'm trying to buy it for more healthier places like farmers markets and places where people take care of their own food and actually pay attention to their own food. And it's not just, getting violently murdered and then devoured. I don't know. I try to go for a more healthier diet so that I could be less depressed, because I already suffer from depression. But that's more my own chemical imbalance from my childhood, my own experiences that I'm working through. Mushrooms work well for my PTSD and depression. Or recently I've noticed, because it puts me in a relaxation mindset. To realize that, I'm not alone in suffering or hurting. The earth is hurting and suffering as well. So I shouldn't feel sad or depressed. Now I'll ask Paul, how does he feel about eating healthier food or hunting versus just having food provided for him?
Mm-hmm. Healthier food. I have quite a shitty diet, but this is because food is expensive, let alone healthy food. If we had more of the giving, feed everybody, grow your own stuff, that'd be a better world than anything else. Food. I know. I'm trying. I know. I know. Let's
Talk
see.
about whatever song you're
Hmm.
in.
Well, that's
We
good.
were talking about polyamory earlier.
Polyamory. Okay, so our ideal situation would be living in a giant house with lots of different families, all raising kids together. And that would be the ideal community for me.
Do you believe it's functional?
Yes, I do. I think we can function.
Do you still think it could happen with all of the depression and
And jealousy?
jealousy
Yes, I think
and anxiety?
yes, I do. I do believe this. I know this now. I suffered from jealousy early in our relationship when she went after another man. And I got sad and scared and violent and emotionally violent. And I was not me.
That's
And
powerful. Like, how did you overcome that?
I was physically violent. Um, mm,
Where I've gotten to a place where I just love him. I don't know. He's one of the only people that I've dated that I'm actually sexually attracted to, physically attracted to, mentally attracted to, and I just love him. And when my mom just simply told me to weigh the pros to the cons, even though he was an asshole for 4 months because of his own jealousy and insecurities, he was an amazing person for 2 years before that. So
hey,
I chose to stay with him and love him instead of kick him aside, even though he went through his own moment of weakness, his own moment of fear. I think everyone suffers through jealousy. He's dating somebody else now, and I'm not jealous of her. I'm just more like, wow, I feel so weird because I'm so young and she's so much older. And I just turned 24 and she'll be 54 soon. So that means she and I are 30-year age gap.
It's very interesting. Like, did she tell you why does she knows you have this lady in your life and she practices this type of, for how long has she been doing that?
She's the tantra or the
Just the, like,
polyamory?
the polyamory, yeah.
What did she say? 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years. She's new to poly.
She's only had one other lover that was poly.
He was around Paul's age.
I
No,
personally,
that wasn't.
like, from a medical standpoint, I think it's a really good way to boost your immunity. No, just kidding. That was a joke. I don't know. Just, I come from a very,
It works to help you be less selfish. You become more selfless with your lovers because you know they're going to find
Happiness.
You know they're going to find other lovers outside of you, and you have to find love within your significant other's love. Yeah? And not find pain in it. I mean, my thing is, as long as they're nice to him and they don't try to change who he is for the worst, and, it's nothing negative, I don't care. And a part of me also doesn't really care to be their friends or as of now, until their relationship is actually a relationship and she has a title. I don't know. I don't feel like I have to be friends with his courtship. Even though when I had a courtship, he felt like I couldn't court that person unless he was their friend type of dynamic. For me, it's different. I don't feel like I have to personally invest my energy or time into this person until I know they're going to be around for some time. But when they're just something you're having fun with, I feel like meeting them once and doing the whole, okay, you're the person dating my spouse, that's fine, is fine. But I don't think I have to be like, let's go to dinner every fortnight and talk about, I don't know, our feelings, I guess. Or eventually I'll get there with her, but now it's just she's someone who they're exploring right now. Doesn't have to know me for me.
I'm really interested to see like long-term studies in regards to people with polyamorous parents versus those with like single mom. Like a conventional family right now that's monogamous, both parents have to work full time to support family, which means that the kids are usually with someone else or at school, or they're not being raised by their parents anyway. So all the people who go, oh, that's not good for the child. Well, newsflash, the parents aren't with their child anyway. So my thinking is, I think back to all the data we've done torturing on animals, and all data and all studies suggest that people need love, people need attention, people need recognition, people need human interaction. Babies die if they're not held. You know what I mean? Like, this is truth.
I think polyamory is actually a positive thing because, like I said, I grew up in that household and I was fully aware that my father slept with them. I was fully aware of who they were, and they treated me a certain way, and I was even one of those smart kids that knew, I know you have something going on with my dad. So you don't want me to tell my mom you'll buy me a gift type of kid, even though my mom knew. I still got a lot of things out of other women. That my father was pursuing. So I came out of a polyamorous situation as a child, and I'm actually wanting that back because it was such a happy household for me. Granted, it was a household full of multiple personalities, different people thinking different ways. My father produced 7 kids and raised all of them with me and my sisters. So my mom got to raise my father's 7 children, and she only produced 2 of them. And she was perfectly fine with it. And then we had a lot of aunts over, or my dad's female musician stars that were over, that would take care of us or babysit us when our parents would go out on dates or need to go out, or our siblings would babysit us, or we'd take care of ourselves. But it was always a household full of people where there was never enough room to function or think for yourself or just have silence. But I enjoyed it because even when I did have quiet moments, it would always get interrupted by something, but then I always had like someone pushing me to grow. And even girls who slept with my dad or my dad's girlfriend even would like encourage my art or help me with my homework, or if they just were there and saw us doing things, they would interact with us and would just help.
And I think you brought up a good point that it could be a good thing because you have all that support. And maybe if people change their perceptions a little bit about what is intimacy, what is expected in a relationship, do I own somebody? The idea of personal empowerment and entitlement just as a natural right being of creation is really prevalent right now everywhere. Everybody's kind of standing up for their rights. And I think sexual empowerment and woman empowerment, even man empowerment, people empowerment is just on the forefront of every action that's going on right now. You look around, people are uprising. And I think part of that growing is being exposed to other things and being uncomfortable. Like, I'm an organic gardener, and you got to bury things for them to grow. And sometimes you bury them too deep and they don't make it. But sometimes you think they didn't make it and you go to change out the dirt and there's a sprout in there. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just look at that seed starter and go, oh, this one didn't make it. You have to go in there and dig sometimes, and you find a perfectly healthy little plant that just needed an extra little time. Like, a few weeks ago, I planted a bunch of seeds, and everybody came up except for these 3 parsley. and finally they did. They just took a little longer. You know what I mean? Like sometimes there are those seeds that just take a little longer. Um, but I encourage people just to have a impartial eye. You know, you got to look at things differently. You've all been programmed and conditioned to think a certain way, and I think it causes a lot of turmoil and stress and unnecessary evil feelings people carry around. Like so many young people are depressed and anxious, and that's not fair. I think a lot of my quote unquote depression and anxiety as a kid came from trying to fit into a mold that I most certainly wasn't. I wasn't made to fit. Like I'm very alluring in my own way. Everybody's very alluring in their own way. You know what I mean? And like once I stopped trying, I I was so happy. You know what I mean? But it takes a long time to get to that point. And just if you're out there and you're like suffering unnecessarily because of a feeling you have and it feels right in your heart, but you're telling yourself it's not based on the ideas of what you think should be right, just, yeah, do some research and be objective with what it is. And, do no harm, take no shit. You got to find the balance of those two things. So I feel like maybe we can empower a few people tonight who are struggling in their relationship or them and their partner, mutually want to see people, but they're worried about what other people will think. Well, there are communities of people out there, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying consider that people are going to do what they want, and you shouldn't judge them.
And instead of settling with cheating on your partner, consider polyamory. Because if you feel yourself being attracted to more than one person at once, you might just have a polyamorous brain and not a monogamous brain. And if your partner can only see themselves with one person, they might be monogamous, and even though you like your partner. A polyamorous person cannot live as a monogamous person because they will become a cheater somewhere down the line. And a monogamous person cannot live as a polyamorous person because they will always have jealousy in their heart. So it will always go against their fabric mindset and their dedication in relationships and how they believe relationships should work. So if you do find out that you're monogamous and you're with someone who identifies as polyamorous or vice versa, you guys might be better off as emotional friends and venture elsewhere. Let the polyamorous person go find someone who's okay with polyamory so they could venture and explore themselves. And the monogamous person, go find your monogamous soulmate so you and them can live happily ever after until one dies.
That was a beautiful story, Such. So yeah, I mean, how many friends do you know that get stuck with that partner that literally sucks the life out of them? And they stay because they love them or the sex is good? Cool, you have an energetic connection on a sexual level. There's also intellectual, there's physical, there's so many levels of relationships. You know what I mean? Like the ability to be alone but together or spend time apart. Like I like sitting in silence with somebody, but sometimes people get me so excited that I just can't stop talking. But I like the people that can do both of those things to me. You know what I mean? Like I truly believe that I'm both introverted and extroverted. Just it depends on the day. Like I don't want to be defined.
Yeah.
There is a word for that. I forget the word though. Whatever it is, I am that. Sometimes I just need solitude and I just need defrag. Sometimes I'm going to talk for 5 hours straight. And you're going to go, what the hell did she eat? It just depends on the day. So you stop cataloging yourself. Stop putting yourself in a box. Um, do some research about the ancient beliefs in Asia in regards to male energy, female energy. It's practiced a lot in the conventional medicine, especially in China. So I really encourage people to look at that. They use the term qi a lot, but it's very interesting. A lot of artists like to depict male and female energies. So it's not some crazy idea that I just spat out. There's some substance behind it, but you've got to do some research. We talked about the ideas of polyamory tonight in raising children in a unconventional framework and how they actually be beneficial because it literally takes a community, and why not have a well-rounded individual? And we're not suggesting that everyone live this lifestyle. I just want to expose you guys to things that make you go, because being slightly uncomfortable is good. It's how things grow. And I encourage you guys to refute everything that was talked about tonight and do your own research. We also touched just slightly on the notion of consciousness being awakened via psychedelics. That's a segue into a full hour show, which I'm going to have next week, where there's a man named Frank. And Frank was a self-proclaimed Republican, conservative, very, I guess what you call A-type personality. Like, you could totally put Frank in a box. You know, Frank followed a script. Frank was an amazing, brilliant man, though, and I never put those parameters on him. I just like Frank because he has got a library that is notable and honorable, and I love books, and so we would just always talk about really weird things like quantum physics. So check it out. Frank had a really amazing transformation in regards to his entire perception of reality. Frank had a connection to the earth. And everything we talked about tonight is true to you guys, and it's just innate. Frank never knew any of that. And he's going to be on my show live here in the Love Lab next week. And we're going to talk about everything we talked about tonight in depth with scientific evidence. So tonight was like the precursor to that. You guys were very organic in the way you explain things, but Frank's very analytical, and he's going to give everyone the data in regards to how he used to think previously in comparison to how he thinks now. And he reached out to me and he's like, I need to tell people this because I feel like I could save so many lives. And he believes now that connecting to nature in that way should be a rite of passage. We should give people the perception that everything that you see is you. And it doesn't mean you can't believe in Jesus or whatever, the Quran, or if you're an atheist or whatever, Judaism, whatever, if you're Buddhist, whatever you believe, it doesn't mean you can't believe it. It just gives you the stronger connection to whatever it is. We're all talking about the same thing. We're just using different words. It's kind of funny. But Frank is going to be here next week, and he's going to share with us his experience, because that's how we grow, as we share in our experiences with each other. So go find someone to have a nice conversation with. Go research DMT, tantric sex, polyamory, ayahuasca.
And then put down your phone for a day.
Put down your phone for a day and go on a hike without your shoes and see if a tree talks to you.
And talk to a stranger.
And yeah, talk to a stranger and don't give them the normal script. But if they ask you how you are, tell them exactly how you are. Be like, oh, I'm constipated, or oh man, you know, my girlfriend's been arguing with me, or oh, my cat got ran over, or I'm having the best flipping day, or I had like 8 orgasms. Whatever it is that you want to tell them to actually stop being human doing, start being human doing. Thank you guys.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.